watching Business Today Television. I'm Sakshi Batra, and this is Market Today, a show where we'll help you understand the trade setup as well as market strategies for the day. It's the beginning of yet another week, the expiry week for the month as well. We are going to be, of course, seeing the final batch of Q4 earnings. Of course, the global cues that are weighing on the sentiment since last week, and there are more statements coming in from US President Donald Trump, be it on the way of tariff tantrum that continues now with the EU first imposing higher tariffs and now retracing it back, holding it up. And of course, statements on manufacturing as well, which has really caused a lot of hurt to tech stocks like Apple. We are also seeing Asia markets in the positive zone, financial, the institutional activity that's picking up pace yet again. So we'll have to see how that one also influences the sentiment of the Indian benchmarks. Of course, IPO space, which has garnered some pace last week, is going to go full throttle with 4 IPOs opening up, 2 listings that are coming up this week as well. So much to really look at. Let me quickly recap for you as to how Wall Street closed lower across the board overnight. S&P 500 dropping by 0.7%, Nasdaq Composite dropping by 1%. Dow Jones also declined by about 0.6%. But the good part is that the US futures are now in the green after the statements of US President Donald Trump now talking about an extension to the deadline of imposing that 50% tariff on imports from European Union to July 9. Now easing some investor concerns on that front. Following this, we also saw the Asian markets also open up into the green. So Nikkei was up 0.7%, Tropics was up by 0.5%, Kospi up by 0.7%. Even ASX 200 was trading flat with a positive bias. We also did see that the GIFT Nifty is now indicating to a positive start in the Indian equity markets as well. Of course, we will also look at some of the domestic cues, RBI's dividend bonanza that the government has got 2.69 lakh crore rupees of dividend for FY25. So that's something that will be important to look at. Monsoons are arriving earlier. In fact, earliest onset in 16 years for Kerala is that we are seeing. We're already seeing a build-up happen in Karnataka. So that will be important to watch out for. Gold prices, which inched up quite a bit, about 5% last week, are now probably posting their strongest weekly performance in 6 weeks that we saw last week. So we'll see how that one also takes shape this time. There's so many stocks that you need to focus on, which we will talk about in a bit. But let's welcome our guest on board. We have a very special guest joining in, Mr. Chakri Lokapriya, the CIO of Equities, LGT Wealth. Warm welcome to you, Chakri, and thank you so much for taking the time out in your new avatar. We're welcoming you after months. And so much has happened, both on your professional front as well as what's been happening globally as well in these couple of months that we haven't interacted with you. Tell us, what have you made of the entire roller coaster that's happening, on the tariff front, the geopolitical tensions front, and of course what we're looking at now on earnings, macros, so many things happening. How are you looking at afresh on the markets perspective?
Good morning, and it's nice to be on your show as usual. Yes, indeed, it's become one of the most biggest roller coaster rides lately, and both right at our own border, right to the US tariff trumps. I think the way it is set up is now the RBI dividend to the government, surplus transfer to the government of 2.69 lakh crores is a huge positive. It's much bigger than last year and the previous year. So this is likely to bring down the government's deficit by 20-30 basis points. So India's balance sheet is stronger. So therefore, the rupee is also likely to trend to be stronger. This is not good for all the imports that India does in terms of, oil. With oil prices themselves having fallen off quite significantly because of an surplus pumping by all these oil nations. That is also good for the Indian economy because we're paying lesser amount. So this is the backdrop globally. Tariff trumps still continue to be very, very unpredictable. But I think the way the world is going is, yes, there will be some baseline of tariff. And outside of that, it's all noise. So against this backdrop, Indian earnings have been slowing down last quarter and by about 3 to 5%. So now the expectation is with an RBI rate cut expected very soon in June, RBI surplus can provide, and the government now has additional funds, can kickstart capex, defense, infra spending, and therefore the construct can improve.
Okay. Chakri, especially on the tariff front, it's happening again. Something that was lying low for some weeks, it's happening again that Donald Trump is now talking about steep tariffs on EU and now retracing that back as well. What is the case that you have made out? Of course, everybody is looking at July 9 and hoping that at least, some sort of sanity will prevail across the nations. There will be some deals that will be done. India, there hasn't been any news so far that what has been finalized as of yet. We've seen how Piyush Goyal has been in the US talking a lot, but no news so far on India, even though China has already seen and UK has already seen their parts of initial deals that are working out. What exactly do you make of what's happening on the tariff front?
If you look at the US UK trade deal as a playbook, and if similar thing happens to India, then India will probably be better off, um, assuming Trump does not throw any new tantrums. So, which means there are 4 or 5 items which are important to India: defense, electronics, some amount in various capital goods imports. Now, if these 4 things are kind of come down to the 10% or there's a reciprocal, which means it basically goes down to zero. India lowers tariffs, they therefore remove the tariffs. So that would largely actually do, if anything, bump up earnings estimates by about 2 to 3%. So that is the overall construct, but we'll have to wait and watch.
We'll have to wait and watch. Meanwhile, viewers, we have 25,000 on the Nifty, at least in the pre-open tick. So let's hope that this continues to go on a forward way. We will come back to the Nifty in a bit. But we also have Mr. Donald Trump's bite for all of you to really listen on. As far as the manufacturing bit is concerned, he said some important stuff overnight, and we want all of you to hear it. Let's listen in to the bite, and then we'll continue our conversation with Chakri.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. We're not looking to make sneakers and T-shirts. We want to make military equipment. We want to make big things. We want to do the AI thing with the computers and the many elements. But the textile, I'm not looking to make T-shirts, to be honest. I'm not looking to make socks. We can do that very well at other locations. We are looking to do chips and computers and lots of other things. And tanks. And ships, meaning ships, yeah.
Okay, no to manufacturing textiles, T-shirts or socks, but looking at tanks and chips, AI, the futuristic technology, and building that in the US is something that is getting indicated. Chakri, what do you make of statements? He also did point out that, for Apple, they said that, you're going to be manufacturing there and there only. So, you almost felt that, this is like license Raj coming back. How are you looking at such statements coming in the US? What does it mean for companies in the US? And what do you think of companies, of course, in countries like India, which may also be looking at exploring ways of exporting now?
Even if Trump does impose a tariff on Apple, the 25% tariff will still make the iPhone cheaper, making it in India and sending it to the US, than trying to manufacture it to the US. So I think it's largely just a kind of a threat which unlikely to hold water. Second is, the very, very high-tech equipment like the semiconductor and the defense equipment. In any case, India does not manufacture them yet. And, where we are is in textiles manufacturing, which is a good thing, IT services, which is required for all the US companies. And, in defense, if anything, we import. So from the US and other countries. So if India removes that import duties, I'm of course being oversimplistic here, but I think the bottom line is India is unimpacted because of most of the items it exports, and therefore it's easier for India to enter into a trade deal.
Okay. Now, Chakri, also help us understand what happens to the flows. We've been seeing, the first part of May, FIs pouring in money into India. Then there has been some blip yet again. How are you looking at the flows from foreign investors towards India going forward from here?
Indian valuations had gone down quite below one standard deviation below its 5-year, 10-year averages. And also, but the out construct for Indian equities was good. It led to an FIS coming back. The rupee has also appreciated and stabilized. And now with the RBI surplus, that gives an additional strength to the rupee and the economy. And therefore, I think we're likely to see FIS continue to come back. And that is a good thing for the Indian markets.
Okay, got that. Now, Chakri, let's also focus a bit on domestic cues. We've been seeing the earnings have largely panned out. We're in the last leg. What has stood out for you in the earnings so far? Where have been positive surprises, and where do you think have been some big misses?
Most of the what do you call the financial services have largely held out in terms of
Mm,
earnings. They're kind of met or beat estimates. But where in the case of consumer staples, they have missed estimates. Healthcare has been healthcare as a non-pharmaceutical has been strong, whereas pharmaceutical has been mixed. So, and industrials, some of the construction companies are yet to grow. So it's been a mixed bag. Overall earnings have been cut by 3 to 5%. So I think still financials, industrials, and consumer discretionary now would be the pockets which we would focus on, where we're likely to see further earnings revisions upwards.
okay. The news also that came in over the weekend, good news that India is now a $4 trillion economy, overtaking Japan to become the fourth largest now. What is the kind of opportunity that Indian retail investors should now be really looking at if we are to build on to what we have achieved so far?
That's a very good question. India is the good news is the fourth largest economy. Against this backdrop, whenever things like this have happened, when it happened to the US in the 60s, Japan in the 90s, China in early 2000, the stock
Hmm.
market thereafter boomed several
Okay.
times for the next several years. So India is now on the threshold of, it's just touched at 4 trillion. And therefore, it's very likely that, it will garner interest from all over the world in terms of FI flows into India. And also the Indian economy is showing that the consumer is increasingly a little bit more to spend, and that will again expand the size of the companies providing for these to cater to local demand. So net of all this, I think the stock market, if history is any predictor, is likely to do very well over the next few years.
Okay, the Indian stock market is likely to do very well, looking at what has happened, historically, and of course how things are placed at this point in time, Chakri. That definitely sounds a positive relief to all those investors who've been sitting on the edge, really looking at as to whether this is the right time for them to really look at the markets at this point in time or not. You tell us, what are you looking at in case you have to start building up fresh clients' portfolios? How would you really go forward and look at some investments there?
See, the financial services is the backbone of everything because, whether it's a company or a consumer or the government, whoever wants to build and buy
Mm.
something have to go to a bank or an NBFCs. So financial services, we will clearly buy. Second is, with all the defense spend, industrial spend,
Yes.
infrastructure, railways. So industrials is another big area. And the third is, of course, now the consumer per capita has moved beyond $3,000. Whenever that shift increases, that means the average consumer is looking beyond basic items like food and shelter. When they're looking beyond that, then that again does good things for the economy.
Okay, fair point. It's 9:07, and let's quickly look at how the markets are settling in the pre-open space. You have 24,919 right now at this point in time on the Nifty. Let's also look at how the Nifty Bank is really looking at this point. We have a whole host of stocks that will be reacting to their earnings. So all of those stocks will also be important to look at. Maybe Ashok Leyland, JK Cement, NTPC. Those will be the stocks, and of course, we'll also look at Tata Motors on the back of what's happened with the EU. That will be the stock that we'll be watching out for. Ashoka Buildcon, all of these stocks, even from the pharma space, Glenmark, all of these stocks will be important to watch out for. So they're all coming up for you on your screens, and we'll focus on them once the markets have finally opened. But Chakri, if I have to ask you again, on Tata Motors, what is the kind of approach that you have looking at what's happened with the EU, something that we've just discussed, and of course how things are shaping up on the tariff front with UK, and of course so how that impacts Tata Motors as well.
Given that the US and UK have entered into a trade deal that removes some kind of an uncertainty on Tata Motors sales of Land Rover Jaguar, Land Rover into the US. So that's Absback's estimates. In India also things are improving. This company itself is the valuation is not expensive. It's just that now with the uncertainty going away, I think the stock is worth looking at.
The stock is worth looking at this point in time. We'll take that. And of course, apart from this, let's also focus on, you did say banks. I wanted to discuss a little bit on the bank front. So far in the recovery rally that we've seen in the markets from the recent lows till all the way up to 25,000 that we saw in the pre-open tick today, it's been largely the large private sector banks, large NBFCs that have supported the momentum. How are you now approaching afresh after this run-up has already taken place? We've seen 52-week hikes for most of them, ICICI, HDFC, the large ones. And now, do you think they still have further leg to move up from here? Or should one now look at maybe even PSU banks?
HDFC, ICICI Bank, all of these companies have benefited to begin with, the valuations were low, the balance sheet, the earnings results are fairly good. And the valuations, even now after the run-up, are still good. So they're definitely worth looking at. And then an economy that is looking to revive, banks will benefit, and therefore worth looking at ICICI, HDFC, even at current levels. Now, outside of that, PSU banks will also benefit from the government push in defense, infrastructure, and all those spending. So whether it's a Canara Bank, Union Bank, State Bank of India, and also now we have to look beyond that, which is also if you look at housing, PNB Housing and some of the housing companies, they'll also start benefiting from lower interest rates.
Perfect. Let's also welcome Vaishali Parekh into the conversation. She's Vice President, Technical Research and Analysis at Prabhudas Lilladher, and she joins us right before the markets have to open. Vaishali, good to have you with us. Very good morning. Help us understand this fresh new week, expiry week. We already are getting an indication 24,900 is with us, in the pre-open trade. Help us understand how would you approach the markets? Where are you focusing on today?
Very good morning, Sakshi. Very good morning, Chakri, and to all our viewers. I think, yes, we are in a positive territory, and Nifty is getting set to bounce back and come towards, it needs to cross 25,100, let's put it that way. So we are elevating our support levels. We have been on a bullish stance since quite a while. So now I would say we would elevate our support levels to 24,700, and it needs to cross 25,150, and that would give us a further projected target of 25,500 to 25,600. So that's how we are looking at. And of course, this is supported by Bank Nifty. We are looking at 54,000 as near-term support, and projected target we maintain 57,000.
Okay, so that's the Nifty and the Nifty Bank. Vaishali, what would be your top two stock ideas that you'd like to highlight for our viewers today?
So in the banking sector, I would look at Axis Bank getting into new round of momentum. So 1180 would act as a support, and 1250 would be the trading target. And the other stock that I like at this juncture is CDSL. Sustaining very well, it's showing a good upward move. I would say, 1350 would act as a near-term support, and this can go as a positional trading target towards 1600 levels.
Okay, Axis Bank, CDSL, those are the two stocks that Vaishali has pointed out. We'll keep an eye out on that. But good cue also to bring in Chakri into the conversation. Chakri, capital markets, a lot of action taking place. We are hoping to see NSE IPO statements coming in from SEBI chairman, also indicating that things are in the works, and sooner or later we are going to be seeing that take place once the issues are resolved. What's happening with NSDL IPO, that's also something that everybody's kept an eye out on. Things are picking up, but at the same time, there is this overhang of whether the expiry session for NSE will be brought into Tuesday, and what that happens, how that will probably impact BSE. The stock has been of late pretty volatile as well. How are you looking at the entire capital market story? If somebody has to really look at the absolute long term, what is the best approach to some of these stocks?
Clearly NSE is, once all the various issues are kind of sorted between the regulator, and it's likely, and it's a much awaited IPO, will probably be well received by investors. And second is, in terms of the expiry dates and all that, it is best that India aligns itself with global standards, global expiry dates, rather than confusing the issue of having multiple dates. But we shall wait and watch. It's a more a regulator thing. And I think, BSC has run up fairly a bit, so I'll wait a little bit to watch.
Wait a little bit to watch out for over there. Okay, let's discuss the other aspect. You also talked about Chakri, the defense space. So let me bring that up also before the markets open. Would you still look at the defense names after the recovery rally has taken place here? And where do you think one can actually continue to build on positions?
Defense has done very, very well, stocks, yeah, for all the right reasons. And because, the order book is expanding, and after the recent incidents at the border, India-Pakistan border, after that, we've seen a further acceleration of order book, and plus Europe. Now, given all this, other than the usual Bharat Electronics, Hindustan Aeronautics, even
Yes.
allied companies which supply into, whether it's an Ashok Leyland's defense orders or if it's a Bharat Earth Movers who also provides equipment, which all are allied factors, they also still look good. And that's the way we would approach defense.
Okay, perfect. We will now wait for the markets to now open. There is a first tick that we are looking at 24,938. So it's on the positive side, 0.4% higher for the Nifty. So it's a positive opening on Monday for the expiry week. We're now building up onto some gains now, 24,972. You can see 120 point of an uptick coming in on the Nifty. The Nifty Bank also high about 0.4%. That's 220 point of a move on the higher side, 55,625. So both the frontline major indices that are opening up in trade. You also have IT stocks that are supporting within the large cap heavyweight spaces, 0.5% higher again for this one. 183 points higher for the Nifty IT index as a whole. Let's start pulling up some of the stocks there. Autos also driving up the show now. Let's pull up banking stocks, which we have discussed with both Chakri and Vaishali. Names like ICICI, HDFC, Access. There's a percent uptick on ICICI, so that's supporting the sentiment. 1464 right now for ICICI Bank, HDFC up by about 0.4%. So that's moving up in trade. You also have Axis Bank that's up by 0.6%, something that Vaishali did point out as her stock of the day. Let's also look at Tata Motors that we've discussed. Of course, the impact from European Union, is actually coming in positive. Tata Motors 724 now, 0.9% higher in trade. We're also looking at 1387 advances to 415 declines at this point in time. So the breadth looks largely positive. We have most of the major sectors that are opening higher in trade, be it IT. Even the mid caps are up by about 0.5%. So you see a broad-based buying that's happening. At this point in time, pharma majors like Sun Pharma also indicating a positive start. So that's the kind of move that you're looking at. Small caps also up by about 0.2% in trade. That's the move that we have right at the open on the trade. Let's also pull up a few more stocks within the Nifty. I think it's only just 2 or 3 stocks that are in the red, but rest of them have all opened higher. Banking gainers are ICICI, SBI, PNB, Axis Bank, Canara Bank, Bank of Baroda, all of them opening higher in trade. So there is a strong momentum across the banks that continues, something that both Chakri and Vaishali have pointed out in trade today as well. Let's look at some auto names. M&M is moving up 1.5% higher. Power Grid, you have 1.5% up. NTPC post earnings is 1.5% higher as well at 350 odd levels. You also have many other names like Ultratech Cement and JK Cement also. Let's pull up after the earnings. I think good numbers there should be pulling up the stock in trade as well. You have Titan, Trent, all of them moving up in the Nifty as well. That's another strong move. Vaishali, how do you see the opening?
About 25,000. So I maintain that the trend is to continue, and the 25, 100, 150 should act as a near-term hurdle. We need Nifty to cross that.
We need Nifty to cross that as well. Let's look at what's happening in this broadest index, Nifty 500 basket, to really see if there are any strong stocks. So you have JK Cement that's up by about 6.7%, something that we just marked. GNFC that's up 4%. Netweb Technologies, MCure, Divis Laboratories. You also have names like Timken, Linde India that's up and about in trade from the Nifty 500 basket. Let's also look at some of the other stocks that are buzzing. So you have GE Vernova TND that's at a 10% move on the higher side. 25,000 is with us, and That's what Vaishali is highlighting for us. Even real estate, Kolte Patil is up 7.5% higher. But I think MSCI reducing the weight on Eternal is giving it some pressure. I think the stock is now down by 3% odd. Results impact on the downside, you have Balkrishna Industries, 10% lower. So that's after the impact there. Let's look at Eternal for that instance, Chakri, with you. How have you been observing what's happening with the new age tech stocks like Eternal and Swiggy. Eternal, we've been seeing so much of news flow, foreign ownership getting reduced by the shareholders' approval now. That's coming to focus. MSCI reducing weightage over there, also impacting the stock. How are you looking at Zomato?
Yes, you're right. In terms of, because of the MSCI weight changes, there's likely to be a good amount, maybe close to about $850-950 million worth of outflows into the stock. And the stock is actually, I wouldn't really buy the stock at the current levels, given that, the amount of uncertainty on a fundamental level on its margins. And with new competition just waiting around the corner in terms of Amazon's and other big players coming in, I'll still stay away from Eternal's from Eternal and Swiggy.
Okay. With the Nifty now crossing 25,000, Chakri, do you see us building onto these gains, probably fast approaching the erstwhile highs of 26,277, or will that still take time?
Fundamentally, basically now the triggers are in place in terms of take the market higher fundamentally. That is, you have an RBI rate cut coming up, and that will provide the support to companies, lower their borrowing costs, and therefore revise up earnings estimates. So I think that is the overall construct. And of course, we have to wait and watch for how the tariffs, that is the next catalyst, what will happen. But near term with, the RBI surplus is clearly a big positive to the government and to the country.
Okay. Vaishali, right in the open, which are the stocks that are catching your attention? What will you focus on for the trade today?
Well, I'm looking at, I think, Bajaj Auto. I still feel two-wheelers have a lot of scope for an upside. So I would look at Bajaj Auto right now, and also Adani Total. It's 669, technically quite well placed. There is scope for a good upside. So I would look at these two stocks.
Okay, got that. Let me bring in Chakri on that fact. Chakri, early showers, monsoons arriving early. I think this is the earliest onset that we've seen in 16 years. How would you look at that for the rural themes, the agro, fertilizer themes, specialty chemicals themes, and of course, some of the two-wheelers that Vaishali has pointed out, like Bajaj Auto as well?
Yeah, Bajaj Auto and Hero MotoCorp are well positioned, again, with the pickup fundamentally of that will eventually see happening because of a good monsoon. We even cyclically also these companies are volumes wise have been low, and therefore there is every case fundamentally that these companies earnings will pick up as we see in the next quarter or two.
Okay, got that. So we'll focus on that. Apart from this, Chakri, also wanted to get a sense on the metal space with you. Metals have been shining bright of late. We have been seeing, of course, of late very, very volatile moves on this one. There hasn't been a very structural one-way kind of a direction that metals have moved. What is the importance of metals in a retail investor's portfolio, and how should one really keep that aspect in play?
Metals are a global commodity, and therefore are subject to global moves. And therefore global trade. And the steel prices, aluminum prices, copper prices are all globally determined and not just by at an India level. So I think that's one factor. And with globe so much uncertainty, therefore metals need to be a little bit cautioned. But all these stocks, whether it is Hindustan Copper or whether it's Hindalco, are attractively priced valuation wise. And copper is supposed to be the next big thing because copper is required in just about every electronics, every fridge, everything needs copper. So I think both Hindustan Copper, Hindalco.
Okay. Vaishali, how would you look at JSW Steel post earnings and any other stock within the metals pack that takes your attention as well?
JSW Steel already at a good support level. I think 1,000 could act as a near-term support, but for a positional trade, I would say 980 acts as a good support, and it can go to 1080. But I'm also looking at Hind Copper. If you see Hill Copper, it has really shown good correction and now it's showing signs of reversal. So I would feel that once, well, it's already begun with a good momentum. So 220 would act as a stop loss and it can go towards 265, 270 as first target.
Okay, fair point. We'll definitely keep that in focus. Chakri, we haven't discussed pharma with you yet. How are you looking at the pharma story developing? What is giving you confidence post earnings? Is it the OEM players again, or is it laboratories? We've been seeing rising cases of COVID-19. Do you think that will again come back into focus? Or how are you looking at the entire pharma healthcare pack?
The earnings results for the healthcare bit, that is the hospitals, have been quite good. Whether it's Apollo or Narayana, these kind of Prudhyala, the earnings were fairly good. And this is a business in which the underpenetrated, so the valuations are fine. On the other hand, if you look at pharmaceuticals, I think Divi's Lab and some of the export-oriented companies are worth looking at because they kind of have already corrected and for all the fears of US tariffs. So I'd look at both Lupin as well as what do you call that Divi's Labs.
Divi's Labs is also at a 4% uptick that we can see today. Vaishali, would you see a build-up from these levels as well? Can one still look at Divi's Labs at 6733?
No, I would say, well, it would be quite an aggressive. It's open
down.
with a gap up. Yes, it's open with a gap up. So to those who must do it, I think keep a stop loss of 6,400. And I think this can go towards 7,200.
Okay, this can go to 7,200 fresh highs on Divi's Laboratories. Both our guests are positive on this one too at this point in time. Chakri, how are you looking at the broader markets, particularly mid and small caps? What is the approach there? Are we done and dusted with all the froth, the overvaluation talk that we were discussing about 6 months ago? Do you think that's settled, or still, one needs to be very cautious, very stock selective here? What's the fresh approach?
I think there are adequate number of companies in the mid cap in the broader market to pick from. And, in fact, most of the earnings growth is likely to come from the broader market where it's likely to be higher than the earnings growth of the Nifty. So given that, clearly, obviously, some stocks have run up, but there are adequate stocks across various sectors, whether it's industrials, financial services, or consumer discretionary to look from.
Okay. I'll just throw in a couple of more questions, Chakri, because we have to let you go at 9:30. One is on the commodities that we started to discuss with metals, but precious metals, gold and silver, how are you looking at these at this point in time? Again, they've been on the move after consolidating just a tad bit. How are you looking at gold and silver? What is your approach for your clients, on this aspect now? Has it changed over the last 1 year significantly?
If I just look at it purely from a stock picking perspective, companies like Titan, I would continue to look at because, the underlying demand for gold is reflected in a Titan stock price. And, given the strong demand outlook due to various factors, global uncertainty, as well as pure underlying demand, I think, the jewelry companies are well positioned.
Okay, jewelry companies are well positioned at this point in time. Would you also want to call out, Chakri, that where one needs to again continue to keep some caution at at this point in time? Where do you think that despite the markets now moving up, there are certain pockets that continue to have some question marks?
In spite of the good monsoon predictions and all those things, some of the staples, Hindustan Lever, Nestle, those kind of companies still don't have the volume growth. So I think it's slightly more caution over there.
Okay, got that. Well, Chakri, we'll thank you then on that note for being with us on the show. It's always a pleasure to host you. Wish you a fantastic run at your new position. And, we will continue to reap the benefits from your wonderful insights for all our viewers in our due course conversation that we will continue to have with you now week on week. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Appreciate your time, Chakri. Let's get back to our conversation with Vaishali. Vaishali, in the meanwhile, I think the first 15 minutes candle is just about to get formed. What's the sense that you have on the markets?
I think it's going well, Sakshi. I mean, we are seeing good momentum in almost all sectors. In fact, even if you look at, as we spoke about Axis Bank, then there is few of pharma stocks, few of IT stocks, automobile stocks. So there is good strength. Reliance, of course, showing strength. So yes, the view stays same, positive, and let's wait for 25,150 to cross.
Okay. You were mentioning CDSL, Vaishali. I want to even bring up BSE because, this is probably the day two of looking at fresh levels that we are looking at BSE. We were used to of seeing it at 7,000, then the bonus split happened. Investors were confused whether on that day, there was a 67% drop, but not so much because it was a 1:2 bonus adjusted split. Now we are at 2,500. So it's further building onto the move after this fresh level is coming in. How would you look at BSE?
I think it's ready for making a new high once again. I would say keep a stop loss of 2,400 to those holding and look for a target of 2,800, 2,900.
Okay, got that. Let's also look at some of the other aspects then in the markets that we can track for our viewers, and of course, get Vaishali's perspective there too. Okay, help me understand when it comes to something that we were discussing with Chakri also, the precious metals related stocks, Titan, for instance, maybe the gems and jewelry space as a whole, gold financing space as a whole. Anything to look at here, Vaishali?
Well, I would focus definitely on Titan, getting into a very strong trend. So, to those
Okay.
even who want to buy, I think 3,500 would act as a good support, and I would look for a target of 3,700 to 3,800. Besides that, I constantly have a focus on Goldium. So, Goldium also is doing very well as a stock. I mean, the current market price is 388, and right now it's into a good consolidation. So, I think all going well, 360 should act as a support, and this could go to 420 levels or so. And if you're talking about the financials, that is Muthoot and all, I think it's already in a trend. So yes, view continues to be positive.
Okay, got that. So we'll definitely focus on that. Let's look at some of the other momentum-based stocks that we can pull up for Vaishali. Let's look at the mid-cap space. Any that we can look at. Suzlon is up 4% higher, 62 odd levels that we can see today. We have RVNL that's up 3.5%. We have Hutco. We have even Paytm that's pulling up. Patanjali, SJV, and Solar Industries that's pulling up from the defense pack. So again, a lot of spaces to discuss. Renewable energy, for you, Vaishali, anything ticks on the higher side? SJVN, Suzlon, Inox, what ticks on the higher side?
All these stocks, SJVN, Inox Wind, Suzlon, they are all looking positive. So I think it should continue to do well.
Continue to do well. What about railways? Do you think the momentum from last week will carry on names like RVNL? Should one focus on this space? You talked about JWL also. This has been such a favorite stock of ours. We have discussed this so many times over. So what looks good now?
That's right, Sakshi. So even in the frontline, Titagar, Texmeco, all these are looking, even rights right now, if you see, it's getting into momentum. So this whole pack, then there is Connex. So all these stocks are in good momentum, so they should do well. Even as a long-term perspective, I think just how we spoke about defense few weeks back, that has given great return. So I think even rail stocks should do well in times to come.
Railway stocks should do well in times to come, just like how we have seen defense rally unfold. Vaishali is confident of that. Let's look at some of the other aspects as well. Let me pull up for you, Vaishali, the new age tech space. Paytm now pulling up some action there, 2.2% higher. Last week it was Honasa. With the kind of course, it's largely personal care and FMCG, but one of the new age ones. And of course, Eternal we've discussed with Chakri as well. How are you looking at the new age tech basket?
I would look at, I mean, of course, this is constantly on my radar, Paytm. So that I would say, well, long consolidation for quite some time, but I would say it's right now in a range of 820 to 880. We need Paytm to move past 880 decisively in 880, 900 resistance band, and that would trigger a further upside going towards 950 and so on.
Okay, fair point. We'll definitely focus on that as well. Let me also pull up some of the other stocks that we can drag. Let's look at the small cap basket along with mid caps as well. There are again some other interesting names here. Sagility is up, IKS from the recently listed stocks. You have PPL Pharma that's up and about in trade. K FinTech again from the markets related story. Gold Digit Insurance is up. Delivery from the new age tech basket is also up and about in trade. So several of these stocks that are in momentum today. Let's also focus on some of the other stocks. By the way, all the sectors, if you will, are actually up and about, viewers. You should note that despite that India VIX is also up, most of the sectors are hovering higher in trade. PSU banks are actually pulling up. Let me discuss this with you, Vaishali. Today, IOB again, PNB, Central Bank, Canara Bank, these are the second round ones that are up and about. What looks positive here? Where would you continue to put in some money in the fresh zones?
Well, so of course, I would start with SBI, then Canara Bank. All these are quite good. Indian Bank. So I would focus on these stocks. But besides that, actually do look into capital goods also and pipe stocks. If you talk about Astral Pipes, Supreme Industries, they are quite well placed, and I would look at those stocks as well. But in PSU, as you mentioned, yes, SBI would be the front runner.
Yes. Okay. We'll definitely focus on that. But I think the top Nifty contributors right now are banks, ICICI and HDFC, definitely contributing to the top gains. You also have M&M that's contributing, Hindalco, Tata Motors. These are the ones that are contributing again. Let's discuss autos first. We have discussed a tad bit. You talked about, even Bajaj Auto for that matter. Vaishali, how would you look at Tata Motors afresh now at 732 odd levels?
So I would say Tata Motors, yes, it's showing a lot of strength. Well, we spoke about it. I mean, actually, it had gone into a good corrective move, and from there on, it's shown a good sign of bounce back. So I would say, as a positional trade, also this can go towards 800 levels. So my view is positive.
Okay, can go to 800 levels. View is positive on Tata Motors. Even within the large caps contributing to the Nifty, there's also Reliance Industries at 1439. Vaishali, on Reliance, do you see the momentum picking up further?
I think technically, I would say that yes, Reliance has been an outperformer. It's continuing to make a higher bottom. So 1400 would act as a near term support, and 1460, 1470 is the next resistance. A move beyond that would give us further high going towards 1500 and so on.
Okay, got that. I hope this has also answered your question well, viewers, in terms of how should you be really looking at some such large cap heavyweight stocks. Okay, Vaishali, between ICICI and HDFC, what would your pick be? You've talked about Axis, I know, but between these two, fresh highs for one, what will you say?
I would say HDFC Bank looks quite tempting for me.
HDFC Bank looks quite tempting. Okay, we'll keep an eye out on HDFC Bank, viewers. Now up 0.6% at 1945 that you see HDFC Bank at this point in time. Okay, let's also look at some of the other key stocks. Vaishali, how about you? When you talk about these monsoons as a trigger, agri fertilizer, is that something that you're looking at?
Yes, in fact, Sakshi just I had recommended BASF, BASF. I don't know how do you put it. Yeah, so
Okay.
that is one stock which looks very good. Right from 4,500 levels, we've been recommending this, and it's getting into a trend. So this is one of the stocks. And besides that, of course, it is fertilizer and chemical. That is fact. RCF. All these are looking positive to us.
Okay, passive fact. These are the kind of names that you can look at with monsoons as a fresh trigger, viewers. That's something that you should definitely be looking at as well. We haven't touched IT so far. Vaishali, how are you looking at some names from this basket? Are you looking at large caps like TechM, HCL Tech, Wipro? They're all up in fee TCS. Or do you think of late, again, our favorite, Coforge, Persistent, these ones have also been pulling up last week as well. Where do you see momentum now building on?
I would say, Coforge, Persistent, they all look, even LTI, Mindtree, they still show a lot of strength. But right now, as I'm seeing, it is consolidating. I'm not seeing any momentum currently. But yeah, the trend is intact. Even Infosys, why not Infosys? That also looks very fairly placed. So for a positional perspective, I would say yes, it's a buy.
Okay, from a positional perspective, it's definitely a buy. Let's look at real estate. Vaishali, we do know that you've time and again marked out Godrej Properties for our viewers. That's again up 1.5% up. You have Lodha, Sobha, Anantraj, DLF. Also pulling up Oberoi Realty, pulling up as well. Would you still go big on Godrej Properties, or do you also add some more names to the list?
So, well, along with Godrej Properties, I would look at Lodha. I would look at Godrej Properties actually has not participated as much as DLF, and also I recommend
Mm.
Godrej Properties. But besides
Mm.
that, also Lodha, Oberoi Realty, they all are quite attractive at these levels.
Okay, fair point. So that's as far as the real estate names are also concerned. Viewers, we're just trying to give you an all across the board the kind of sense that we're getting because the markets are in good shape at this point in time, and you're seeing some positive moves across the board today. It's a very, very good start. Autos we have discussed, the IT we have discussed, pharma, banks we've discussed, realty as well. FMCG we've not touched that much. Chakri also said that he's not very sure of whether names like Nestle will actually pull up. But what happened with ITC last week? Again, there is a 0.5% move today. Do you think it can carry on within the FMCG pack? How would you look at such staples right now, Vaishali?
So I would say actually, these stocks are not good for trading perspective, but can hold in the portfolio because they don't give you regular. If you look at ITC also since quite some time, it's hovering between 420 to 440 levels. So it's very difficult to make a trade out of it. But yeah, to those who want to hold for a longer period perspective, yes, why not?
Okay. Vaishali, how about the power names? Let's discuss that as well. NTPC, of course, post earnings. How would you look at that? Power Grid, maybe REC PFC. Today, GTND India is up at 10% uptake. We discussed renewable energy names, but the main pharma, the power story. How would you look at those?
I think that's a no-brainer because this will not go out of fashion. I mean, no matter what, power is going to be forever. So yes, I think NTPC, even at these levels, is an attractive buy. Tata Power is still to be added at every dip. I'm looking at Torrent Power. Then there are these Kalpataru Power, and also overall full back looks good to me. So yes, I would say
Absolutely.
yes. Continue having in your portfolio.
Okay, let's look at some of the stocks which are at 52-week highs today. You have JK Cement, you have Solar Industries, you have Divis that's at a fresh high, you have ICICI Bank, of course, at fresh high, Max Financial, Reliance Power, they're all at 52-week highs as well. Cement pack, Vaishali, JK Cement now up 6%, of course, earnings focus there. Anything that catches your attention from the cement space too?
I would look at Ultratech, I would look at Ambuja, I would look at ACC also because these are the stocks, even Ramco Cement, they still show an upside potential. So I would look for buying opportunities in these stocks.
Okay, while there are so many other stocks which are at 52-week highs, there are none whatsoever at 52-week lows. That's a positive, kind of an indication again. Top movers from the broadest index, like we've marked, GET and the India, 10% higher. Finolex Industries is up. GNFC from the fertilizer pack. JK Cement. Techno Electric is another one. Timken India and Linde India, 5 to 10% kind of moves that can be seen on this front. Whereas on the lower end, you have Balkrishna Industries that's down 9.3% post earnings. Sartha Energy that's down. Honasa Consumer, remember, after that stunning move last week on the back of earnings, double digit gains, almost 20% is what we had seen for the stock. Now 3.5% down. Internal is down 3.2%. Afcons Infra, GRSC is seeing some profits being taken off after that stunning move again last week as well at this point in time. Most active stocks by volume right now are Reliance Power, Vodafone Idea. You're seeing Suzlon, Yes Bank. Some of these stocks are huge on volumes. Reliance Power more so. I think it's the top moving stock with the volumes that are coming in. Vaishali, Reliance Power, any suggestion?
So, well, it had its resistance at 54 week high, I mean, 52-week high at 54 levels. So, well, it can consolidate at these levels, but the way chartically it looks, it's poised for new highs. So, I would say continue holding.
Okay, continue holding. We are nearing the first half an hour of the candle, and we'll start, wrapping up the markets thereafter. But there's also an interesting aspect that we can probably talk about, and that's the IPO space, which we will discuss in a tad bit. Remember, today, there's this new IPO that's opening, Leela Hotels. There's much anticipation about it, and we'll definitely help you out with all of that front as well. Let's, however, discuss with Vaishali on some of the other aspects in the markets right now. Clearly, it's the banks that are leading the show today, 0.7% higher viewers. I mean, that has really contributed to the Nifty beyond 25,000, and it's continuing to support. Broader markets are up and about in trade. Top contributors, like I said, Reliance Industries, ICICI, HDFC. In fact, let me just read up for you for the kind of points that are getting contributed. So ICICI and HDFC are the top two contributors. ICICI is contributing 31 points to the Nifty. HDFC Bank is contributing 24 points to the Nifty move today. Reliance Industries is contributing 18 points. M&M is contributing about 15 and a half points. You also have L&T that's contributing 14 points. And then Axis Bank, something that Vaishali pointed out, also contributing to the top gains at this point as well. Some of the top F&O movers, Titagar Rail, IRFC, M&M, we are seeing Hoodco, Macrotech developers, solar industries. Let's discuss this one. Vaishali, anything in the F&O space that, warrants our attention as well?
Sorry, come again. Which sector are you asking me about?
The F&O space, the F&O movers today. What would you look at the futures and options stocks?
Well, I think I'm looking at Larsen. It's two looking positive. Larsen and Hindustan Unilever now getting into momentum. So I think Larsen is ready for a trading target coming towards 3,800. And Hindustan Unilever also is getting into momentum. So I would look at this stock as well. So current market price is 2378. For an intraday purpose, also 2310 could be the support. It can go towards 2420.
Okay, got that. First half an hour of the candle is now out. We have 25,045 with us on the Nifty, 0.8% higher in trade. Vaishali, how will you trade this day?
Well, I was prepared that yes, we are going for a positive move. So I would continue choosing. And as I said, Axis Bank is showing a lot of strength. Other stock that I would like is Container Corporation. So I think 700 would act as a good support. In all likelihood, this can go towards 788.
Okay, got that. I hope this has helped all our viewers out with the strategy there. Vaishali, will thank you on that front for being with us on the show. As always, it's always a pleasure to be with you, and you always bring it that brightness on our screens, and with your presence, we always see the Nifty achieving higher highs and 25,000 also with you on the screen, and that's another testimony. 0.9% high in trade. We're at the day's high. Fantastic opening for the day, and Vaishali, hope you have a fantastic day. We'll see you soon on another edition. All right, viewers, we'll now focus on the IPO space, and we'll just try and help you out understand as to how should you be really looking at these new IPOs that are opening up. It's Schloss Bangalore, 3,500 crore rupees IPO. The owner of Indian luxury hotel chain, the Leela, that kickstarts for subscription today. This 3-day issue will close on May 28th. The company has set a price band of 413 to 435 rupees per share for the IPO. Investors here can bid for a minimum of 34 shares and then in multiples thereof. Remember, this is the highly anticipated IPO of the 3,500 crores. It includes a fresh issue of 2,500 crores and an offer for sale of 1,000 crores as well to the existing shareholders. And from this 2,500 crores, of course, a large part will also go to retire the debt for the company as well. At the upper end of the price band, that's at 435 rupees per share. The market cap of Schloss Bangalore will be at 14,527 crores, is what we are given to understand. I think a whole host of you may also be looking at whether you should be looking at Schloss as subscribing to this issue. Well, we are seeing that most of the brokerage houses have actually given a subscribe rating for the long term. But at this point in time, you really have to speak to your financial advisors to really see whether you should be including this in your IPO basket, for your personal, portfolios as well. For that, you will need to take fundamental experts' advice. We will, of course, be getting you top fundamental experts answering you on Schloss Bangalore throughout the course of the day, so that you get various perspectives and then are able to decide for yourself whether this one is suited for you. All right, viewers, we'll wrap it up on that note on to the first edition of our show today. That's Market Today for the morning edition. Markets are off to a fantastic start. 25,000 is with us. Let's hope that this continues for the better, and we'll continue to get you all the insights from the market experts throughout the course of the day. Stay tuned.
Hello and welcome to Business Today. I am Siddharth Zarabi, and with me today, the poster boy of the global vaccine world, really, Adar Poonawala, the Chief Executive Officer of Serum Institute. Adar, welcome to